Alright guys, I'm going to need you to do me a favor and go back and watch this video from a couple of months ago called Guaranteed Superannuation Rate. I'll link it in every way I can to make it as easy as possible for you, and once you've done that, come back to this point in the video and we'll carry on. Now that we're all on the same page, let's have a look at this tweet by MP Tim Wilson. The facts are clear. Prioritizing super over home ownership is harming first home owners. It should be, and then in their weird website, HomeFirstSuperSecond.com. And now I'll read this whole stupid article for you. Alright, here we go. Oh gosh, look at him. Home ought to come before egg. There are many factors that influence house prices, but only one denies young Aussies the capacity to use their savings to buy their first home, putting superannuation ahead of home ownership. Despite the predictions of doom and gloom, recent 2020 house price data shows the availability of cheap money, and Australians moving to the regions has meant that there's an average increase in house prices throughout the COVID recession. For homeowners, that's a good thing, but it has compounded the barriers to home ownership for first home buyers who require a larger deposit. Young Australians were most likely to face the full force of COVID lockdown measures because of the industries they are most likely to work in. While it has always required sacrifice for young Australians to buy their first home, declining incomes and the rising house prices means their task is only getting harder. But there is one factor that is taking young Australian savings deliberately away from being saved for a deposit: compulsory superannuation. Until the 1990s, it was simple logic that young Australians saved for a house deposit and then shifted their focus to retirement planning. It was even more commonplace for corporate superannuation policies to exempt young workers from making contributions, understanding they needed extra cash for a house deposit. The introduction of compulsory superannuation reversed those priorities and put retirement planning ahead of owning a home. As a result, nearly 10% of a young Australian's wage is taken away to save for retirement nearly 50 years into the future. As Australian Superannuation Fund of Australia data shows, Australians between 30 and 34 on average have $38,000 that they could use for a deposit. Super alone won't be enough, but it reflects years of savings that could reduce the cost of a first purchase and foregone rent. The impact has been obvious. In 1992, the Australian superannuation system amounted to $221 billion. Today's that is $3.1 trillion, an increase of a factor of more than 14. The same outcome hasn't been reciprocated on reduced dependence on the pension, dropping a mere 2% from 67 to 65% of retirees. Concurrently, ABS data shows the average home ownership rate of Australians between 25 and 34 has gone from 52.2% in 1995-96 to 36.8% by 2017-18. As the Retirement Income Review Fund, over the past 40 years, the median age of the Australian buying their first home increased from 24 in 1981 to 33 in 2016. And the most recent data now shows that has grown to 36. Considering the retirement age is 66 and mortgages now go for 30 years, it is pretty clear that with a median purchase age of 36, it'll get harder for first home buyers to get a full mortgage or risk needing to settle what's left of their superannuation when they retire. ABS data shows that's happening already, with 469,000 retirees withdrawing lump sums for retirements to either pay off their family home or renovate it in retirement. The argument against allowing the use of super to buy a first home is that it will increase house prices, and people's borrowing capacity absolutely has an influence, but incomes and regulation constraints borrowing too. There are many factors that have led to higher house prices and compel a higher deposit: tax policy, planning and zoning laws, and interest rates, among others. Super matters, but it should be matched with the slipstream of life, and you can save for your retirement once you own a home. but you can't save for a home from retirement. Of course, most Australians don't think it should be a choice between home ownership and super, but the reality is every dollar locked in super can't be used to buy a home. Currently, Australian law prioritises super over homes, when it should be homes first, super second. I don't want to pick apart all of it, but one thing I want to mention, how he mentioned that people in their retirement will be getting renovations and paying for them. I'm just going to say, as a tiler, a lot of people I worked for were old, because I figured that made sense. They're retired, they have the time to plan these things, and they're home a lot, so they want their surroundings to be nice. And when people get older, they want rooms like the bathroom made as safe as possible. And it's your house, your retirement, you do what you want. And how he mentions that a 30-year-old to 34-year-old could have on average $38,000 they could use for a deposit. That's how much a 30-year-old would have in super. That's just a little bit more than it costs to fly Potato Dutton to Tasmania to announce some grants. But that's another tweet about some other bullshit by another politician. And I'll get to Potato Dutton, but back to Tim. I retweeted Tim's tweet, and what I said was, Tim here's home ownership rate of Australians between 25 and 34 has gone from 52.2% in 1995-96 to 36.8% by 2017-18. And average age of Australians buying their first home increased from 24 in 1981 to 33 in 2016, and thinks, yeah, what these people need is no super. And then I thought I'd add these on a little bit later. I was like, but yeah, superannuation's the problem, isn't it, Tim? And I put these screenshots from a couple of websites where it has the average price in all the capital cities, and it's got Sydney 64,800, and in 1980 to that house would cost now is $1,285,513. Because then the final screenshot I added was just simply one of the average house price of 2020, with Sydney at 1,200,000, the cheapest being around $500,000 in Hobart, Perth, Adelaide. So shut the fuck up, Tim. And shout out to the person that replied with this perfect response. And one of the tweet by Tim I want to talk about on this topic: home ownership is more important than superannuation. Home ownership delivers benefits in your working life and retirement. Super is just your retirement. That's why it should be home first, super second. And I retweeted that one as well. And I figure that's a good way to wrap this up. Thanks for watching. That's so Australians don't have enough to retire on, and then some of them end up having to turn to things like reverse mortgages, which will lead to banks taking more Australians' homes.